An estuary is a standing body of water between the land and the sea. It always has to have an open connection to the sea, and it would have streams or rivers coming in. And that means that it's neither properly freshwater nor properly salt water. It's going to be that mixed environment, which is so exciting and interesting, particularly the Dee, which is sitting at the corner of the Irish Sea basin, where we've got a very strong tidal range, and we also get storms coming in from the sea, and yet it's protected. It's not a fully marine environment. In terms of the estuary, we've done quite a few field trips for the Audi Estuary project. It's a beautiful place. I've been living on the Wirral for more than 40 years, so it's a beautiful environment. There's so much to see and do. And the chance to explore it and explain it to people has been wonderful.
It's somewhere, it's a special kind of place, and you're between the land and the sea. I always love looking out across the estuary. When I was living in West Kirby, I'd go up Caldy Hill. You could look out across the estuary and the sea, and it'd be a bit like it being on a desert island, as if you were completely cut off from the rest of the world. There's a sense of wildness. In Britain, you get very few places that are truly wild. Everything's been very much tamed. But you go out into the sands, particularly round about Hoylake, West Kirby, that sort of area where the sands stretch a long way. And you can look back and you can see the land, and it's just a line on the horizon. And it's as if you've travelled a long way into the wild. And that's what it really feels like. You can get away from normal life.
When you're in the middle of the estuary at low tide, it can feel like you're in the Sahara with the sand dunes. You've obviously got the natural landscape, which is breathtaking, especially first thing in the morning. But I also love that so much is going on. It's become evident through the Audi Estuary project that there's just different organisations, individuals that are all working towards making the Dee estuary safe, making it a better place, making it better for people and for nature. The other thing I love is the Dee estuary has got a massive historical value, and so that balance of nature and industry, of history and future potential, I find fascinating. I guess that's one of the main roles of my job, is trying to make sure that NRW as a harbour authority gets that balance.
I think really my main remit and my main interest is coming at it from the ecological side, and to be perfectly honest, I like being at the coast. Not many people probably don't, and so over the years I've developed an interest in coastal habitats, and I think estuaries are a particularly interesting one, because not only are they the boundary between land and sea, they're also the boundary between freshwater and seawater, and you get quite a lot of unique habitats derived from that. But also, if you go to the coastline, it offers a degree of wildness. Nature still wants to have its input, doesn't it? The sea, the tide comes in, as Vic and Bob will say, tide comes in and it goes out again. So the habitats are forever changing, and in my view, they should be allowed to change. And those habitats in turn attract distinct sort of species to them. We've got natterjack toads on the estuary, which occur on these small fringe habitats just at the edge of where the sea and the land sort of meet. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff in the estuary, and I'm interested in the way natural processes will affect the habitats and how they'll adapt to that, really. And it's trying to allow that to happen at the same time as human activity to occur, really.
My name's Holly Peak, and this is Marnie, my Cocker Spaniel, and together we are trying to find invasive Chinese mitten crabs. Marnie requires a lot of exercise, so what we tend to do first of all is take her for a walk so that she can get a bit of that energy out of her and get ready to focus for the day. And then we'll pick a site where we want to search for Chinese mitten crabs. The Dee is really special to a lot of people. I personally love how many different types of waders we get here. But I also love the sort of contrast between the estuary and the freshwater environment and where it meets, which is where Marnie comes into her own, because the Chinese mitten crabs, they will come from the estuary and they will go up to the fresh water. They migrate there when they're juveniles, and then they live a lot of their life up in the fresh water, and that's where they cause a lot of damage, and then they'll migrate down the estuary to breed. Yeah, I like that contrast between the muddy estuary and the fresh water, and all the different sort of wildlife that you get in between. I think it's fab.
I think if people use the estuary and they appreciate the estuary, they'll value it. And if they value it, they'll look after it, really. I think that's the thing in the long run. And that's one of the key things of the Estuary Estuary project, I think, is that within our roles, we have very little time to go out and speak to people and generate that interest in nature, other than dealing with owners and occupiers of land. And I think part of the project has been about trying to get that engagement, whether it's people that live locally or whether it's holiday makers or whether it's people that work on the estuary who may or may not know certain aspects about it. And I think that's been part of the project, as to try and bring that more to people in the vicinity of the area. And really, in terms of the long-term future of the estuary, if people value it, then they'll look after it, I think that's the hope anyway.
Oh Mary, go and call the cattle home, and call the cattle home, and call the cattle home across the sands of Dee. The western wind was wild and dank with foam, and all alone went she. The creeping tide came up along the sand, and o'er the sand, and round the sand, as far as eye could see. The blinding mist came down and hid the land, and never home came she. Oh, is it weed, or fish, or floating hair? A tress of golden hair, or drowned maiden's hair above the nets at sea? Was never salmon yet shone so fair among the stakes on Dee? They rowed her in across the rolling foam, the cruel crawling foam, the cruel hungry foam, to her grave beside the sea. But still the boatmen hear her call the cattle home across the sands of Dee.